CCP called José Luciano. CCP is a community fishing council, and this is a group of individuals in determinate circumscription that are in charge of managing the marine and coastal resources within the boundaries of certain community. So this guy came to Ocean Revolution and said, well, besides the shark issue that we have here on the bay, they've started also to observe some decline on fisheries.
Começamos a entrar no plano de trabalhar com a liderança comunitária, isto é, eu fui sempre com Antoninho fazer perguntas como é que ontem faziam a pesca e como é que hoje a pesca está se reduzindo. Viram que havia necessidade de então ensinar as comunidades daqui da Baía de Inhambane em termos da conservação.
Luciano's perspective was that in the past they had a customary practice in place and that worked well and they had a good fisheries. So the need was Ocean Revolution helping those communities, to revive their traditional knowledge so they could see some improvement in fisheries, and also they wanted also to actively participate in fisheries management. So since then we have started to work very close with the communities around Inhambane Bay to give them some support and also guidance, and also bringing together the government and other NGOs and also academia to work together, because we immediately understood that there was a new narrative of conservation that was really coming grassroots, bottom-up approach. We got established 3 permanent no-take zones around Inhambane Bay. And that was just the very beginning, because afterwards all the communities across Inhambane Bay, they got inspired by this conservation approach. So now in total in Inhambane Bay, as part of a community conservation network, we have about 12 no-take zones that covers an area of 1,300 hectares, completely protected. But in the meantime, we also have these fishing time closures around Inhambane Bay just to reinforce the management measures in place, and all led by communities. The communities themselves are enforcing those areas, and there is also support from the government agencies. So we have this group of government officials, communities and NGOs all working together and sharing resources, and it's been working really well.
Nós fiscalizamos todas as atividades que acontecem no mar, assim como também nas águas lacustres e fluviais. Também garantimos a segurança no mar, mas em coordenação com outras instituições. Eles colaboram conosco e nós também colaboramos com eles. Por essa razão, há essa harmonia.
Conservamos para que isto possamos servir o dia do amanhã. Porque se formos a pescar todos os dias sem aquela conservação, é porque o produto escassa-se, acaba. Então a melhor forma de poupar o nosso produto é de descansarmos e criarmos os berçários onde o peixe possa se reproduzir para poder alimentar aquelas zonas onde nós pescamos. A comunidade participa, até exige. Quando a gente demora no defeso, a comunidade por si exige. Por que este ano nós não estamos a vedar? Há espécies mesmo que desapareciam, mas com este tipo de prática da veda, algumas espécies já estão a se retornar. Nesses últimos dias já temos 4 digongos que estão aqui, que era uma espécie que já não existia. Temos digongos porque a proteção já está a se usar aqui.
As a part of the conservation project that we have in place, and also in making sure that the no-take zones or the fishing time closures are showing some sort of results, we have been doing some monitories. We do monitories of catch in the adjacent areas of the no-take zone. We were able to conduct some eDNA sampling, and this was the great support of Nature Metrics, just to assess what's out and in the no-take zones that we are working out with the communities. And we have also monitoring the ecosystems, especially seagrass and mangroves.
Conservation and regeneration implemented by the communities with the support of Ocean Revolution Moçambique are successful in Inhambane Bay. But the communities are still deeply dependent on fishing as their daily livelihood. And the NGO is also addressing this issue.
We all together sit with the District Economic Affairs and the CCPs, the Community Fishing Councils, to design a program for livelihoods. And with this livelihoods component will give, opportunity to reduce some pressure out on the ocean, and people could also develop some land-based activities. Ocean Revolution was able to hire specific staff, to provide technical assistance for these fishermen, to start to do some vegetable farming, small livestock. And besides that, we also introduced vocational training for youth, especially the sons and daughters of fishermen, because we understood that they needed some new perspectives of living. We were able to give about 150 scholarships. So those youth now are able also to contribute and to support their families. They have now different sources of income, and they reduce the pressure. In the meantime, they also became role models within their communities. So they are inspiring also this new generation. And they see that life is not just about fisheries, but there are also some land-based activities, and they can complement each other. Plus, we also have the village toll component, a mobile unit that drives across every community around Inhambane Bay once a month, and we deliver their message of education, best practices. So it's been amazing that we have these communities around here in Inhambane committed to preserve and conserve the resources.
The Marine Protected Areas network of Inhambane Bay is showing promising results. In order to amplify their actions, Ocean Revolution Moçambique is working closely with Marine Conservation Institute. For over 30 years, Marine Conservation Institute has been leading effective marine conservation by highlighting, supporting and representing a global network of outstanding marine protected areas worldwide through the Blue Park Standard.
I'm Sarah Hamid, and I am the Blue Parks Director and Senior Scientist at Marine Conservation Institute. Marine Conservation Institute is a team of scientists working to take good science about what kinds of marine conservation works to conserve biodiversity and putting it into action. Blue parks are the most amazing marine protected areas in the world. The idea behind blue parks is to accelerate the implementation of more of these outstanding examples of marine protected areas. We know that marine protected areas work to conserve biodiversity, but they only work when they have all the puzzle pieces fit in the right place together. And unfortunately, we have a lot of marine protected areas in the world that are not there yet. And so with the Blue Park Standard, we're trying to guide some of those efforts to let folks know, let communities know, let governments know what's needed to create an effective marine protected area, and then incentivize that type of protection with our Blue Park Awards.
Inhambane Bay MPA's network is working to reach the Blue Park Standard, ultimate level of recognition for marine protected areas worldwide. In order to do that, Ocean Revolution Moçambique has integrated the Blue Spark program of Marine Conservation Institute.
Blue Sparks are partnerships between Marine Conservation Institute and folks who are working on the ground to make outstanding marine protected areas. We are providing a toolbox for marine protected areas. And so particularly with our Blue Spark partners, they let us know what they need, and we try to provide it. And when we can't, we look to our partnerships, our vast network of partners, to try to find the tool to help them accomplish their objectives.
This is now changes completely the community idea that they are not lonely. They are not alone in this journey, but there are also a lot of more supporters behind the scenes, watching, and that really believe that this can be a success and can be replicated elsewhere in the country or also around the world.
Ocean Revolution Moçambique and the communities can count on the support of the Blue Spark Hero Salom Lines. The company is contributing to the Blue Spark program, but also directly helping the projects on the ground. Here in Inhambane Bay, Salom's Line support provided Ocean Revolution Moçambique with a new patrol boat, a necessary tool for the surveillance and monitoring of the bay, as well as a link with the communities. With both Blue Parks and Blue Sparks, Marine Conservation Institute is moving forward on the 30 by 30 target.
the world, through the Global Biodiversity Framework, has adopted this target of protecting at least 30% of the ocean by 2030, and yet we're a long ways away from that. We might be at about 3% of effective conservation today. So we need to keep working, everywhere. We need local communities, we need national governments, we need NGOs cooperating, we need to work with the communities. There's just so much work to do, but by, using examples like this and telling the story of Inhambane Bay and Ocean Revolution Mozambique, we can go around to others and say, they can do it, you can do it, we can work together to do it.
All of us, we are invited to join this movement of marine conservation global-wide, because this is a time of action.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed that short film, really inspiring, great job from Clément and Jerome of the Blue Quest. Before we jump into a little discussion, I want to remind everyone that you can ask a question. All you have to do is click on the button there for Q&A, and we'll get the questions and we can promote those forward. I also want to let everyone know that this film and the month of June is part of our efforts to increase the Blue Park Conservation Fund, which is how we supported Ocean Revolution Mozambique in Inhambane Bay. We were lucky, as noted, that Saloon Lines jumped in to help support that area. But we have many Blue Sparks around the world, and that we can help to support their conservation efforts. So the money you donate to the fund goes directly to those projects, and can mean everything from better monitoring to better computers to a new boat to the community just being better engaged and understanding the projects that are there. So I'm also going to now bring Yonel's here with us, one of our board members, and Yonel and Clément and I, along with Sarah and others, were all there in Mozambique. But yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' perspective on how the Blue Spark program is going and your experience there. Yonel, why don't you go ahead and jump in?
Thank you, Lance. So in Mozambique and in Inhambane Bay, what I saw was a nascent marine protected area in an incredibly rich biodiversity spot. The local project team that you saw on the film was really completely integrated with the local communities, whether it's the fishing communities, the kids, the schools. Sacramento talked about academia and other NGOs, and even the soccer, the sports events, where we actually witnessed a soccer game, and after the game, there was a conservation film that was screened, and you should have seen the fascination of the crowd. Everybody, I mean, elders, young adults, a lot of children, everybody just mesmerized by the movie. And so what I also saw over there, the power of what donations can do in the field. And probably the best example that you saw was that patrol boat that was donated by Saloon Lines, the shipping line, to be used for monitoring, but also to move around the MPA, which is a very large bay. And you can imagine that driving around could take several hours, but with a boat that can get there in 15, 20 minutes. Another interesting thing I saw was the fact that the fishing communities themselves recognized that they had gotten themselves into some trouble, and they were trying to reverse some of this self-inflicted damage. We saw some mangrove areas close to the historic city center that had been destroyed and were allowed to grow back. And we all know how important mangroves are to young fish growing in some protection there. And the elders, and you saw several of them in the film too, they were lending their weight. And in African societies, the elders have a lot of say, and that is helping everybody manage the fishery better.
Yeah.
Clément?
Great.
Yeah. I mean, from
First of all, for me, that was something very special because this is actually almost where the Blue Quest started 10 years ago, was with a film in Mozambique in Tofo, so right next to Inhambane Bay. So that was quite special for me to be back there and with Marine Conservation Institute team as a Blue Park ambassador. I loved it, and especially because I know that when I go on the ground with Marine Conservation Institute on the blue parks and blue sparks, I have no doubt I will come and meet an effective marine conservation project. So obviously you saw it on the film. This is what happened there. We arrived and we've been witnessing the amazing work of Ocean Revolution Mozambique. And what struck me was really what this is like the key success in any conservation project in MPAs. But like from day one, we saw how engaged in the communities and with the different stakeholders the project was. It's like Ocean Revolution Mozambique is doing an amazing job at bringing everybody together. And this is something that we deeply appreciate. And for me as a filmmaker, I appreciate even more because when I come, I know exactly who to film and everything. So that was the first thing that struck me. Like we arrived day one, Sacramento, put us on a car and say, hey, we're going to go to this village, interview these people, this guy. So that was maybe the most intense day of filming for me. The first one with like 15 interviews in one day. So we went all around the bay, which is a lot to drive to see that and to see the different stakeholders during a few days. And yeah, I mean, the project is like Ocean Revolution Mozambique is really in the middle of this project and is bringing everybody together to reach the goal they are setting for effective conservation, but with the idea behind of food security. This is not conservation just to reach a number or something. It's like the communities in the bay, they depend on the fish stocks and on the biodiversity, marine biodiversity there to actually to live and to survive. So first of all, this is what we saw. And as Yonel mentioned, we've seen the boat and where an effective donation goes. That means like when you arrive in Inhambane Bay, you have actually two ways to connect the different villages. It's either with hours of driving or it's with way more or less time of like sailing around and everything. So this is what I saw on the ground is like money put in a good use. And I like this project. I mean, for me, it's a base case scenario of what can happen when you have donors engagement and you have also folks on the ground that know what they need and they deliver impact after that with that.
Great. Yeah. I was so inspired after visiting that team there. I mean, just the fact that they were so welcomed throughout the community by lots of in the community, like you said, is separate. There's folks that live on the islands, there's folks that live in the towns. But everywhere we went, just their level of relationship, and then also just the fact that the boat is the community's boat as much as it is given to Ocean Revolution Mozambique. They share it out with everybody. It's one of the few ways that even the government folks get out to some of the places from time to time. But the fact that to me the dugong, of course, was a real highlight. But just this sense that the fishermen and the community seem to be very supportive. The wildlife is showing that it's recovering, and the fishermen recognize like, yeah, we need to really do something here in order to basically come back to something we used to have. And you think about Mozambique, and you saw at the film all those kids there. I mean, a very, very young population of individuals. So they really are, as you now said, the elders are really thinking about their next generation of folks there, and it's going to be pretty overwhelming. There were certainly just huge numbers of young people everywhere we went in the country. So I came away thinking, we just need to really help more groups like this, or if they invite us in, help them any way we can, because it's really an important aspect. Clément, you've been to a few other Blue Sparks and Blue Parks. What any kind of lessons you draw across the network now in terms of what you've learned or seen? What's kind of critical to success?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, the key point of success is like when everybody is at the table and is able to talk and is able to decide together what the future will be for the ocean space and the conservation and everything.
I'm lucky enough to be in a time right now where, and also going on the ground with Marine Conservation Institute, to mostly see successful projects, successful conservation and everything. So yeah, the main ingredient in the recipe is like to have everybody on the table so they can decide together and the different stakeholders are involved, you know, because what on the other end, on the other side is like when there is no success is when there is no, you know, like stakeholder engagement and everything. So yeah, that would be the first one. The first key is to have the different actors working together toward an effective goal. The second one would be like the science. You need to have the science because you need to set goals that are effective in terms of ocean conservation and everything. Because if not, that will be totally useless actually. And the third one, and this is something actually a bit more sad, is like there are a lot of very interesting projects and very inspiring projects and everything, but in terms of conservation and ocean conservation, this is a very, very underfunded sector. So there is funds needed on the ground. And so this is also something I've seen as key success is like, you can see all over the world many projects with amazing ideas and everything, but if they don't have the means to reach these goals, as I will end up like not happening. And that's actually something very sad. And yeah, I've been lucky enough in the different films we've done and the different documentaries and stuff to see the places where they actually manage to create momentum and to reach an amount of funding that allows them to actually deliver effective conservation.
Yeah, great. That's really critical. We did have a quick question about where the film is online, and you can certainly view this and many other Marine Conservation Institute videos on our YouTube channel if you want to go to Marine Conservation Institute. And I believe we have some other Blue Quest films there as well that you can stream. Yonel, before we kind of wrap up or look for other questions, any you've been with us now for a few years and seen some of the work. What do you think are the important aspects of where we need to go as an organization to help kind of fill this 30 by 30 gap? And what inspires you to stay engaged?
Mm-hmm. Great question, Lance. Yeah, so I've been on the board for about 3 years now, and I think in that short amount of time, I've been able to see firsthand MCI's impact in terms of the steady increase of blue parks and awareness. I think when I joined, there was something like 20-something parks, and now it's like in the mid-30s or getting up to close to 40 parks. And a lot needs to be said about the blue park standard. You know, the way that I describe it to layperson people in my conversations, it's a little bit like the UNESCO World Heritage Site. I use that analogy because a lot of people have heard of that. And the UNESCO World Heritage Site, it takes a certain set of characteristics to get there. But once you're there, it doesn't mean that you will keep the standard. If the site is not protected, if the site is not maintained, you could lose the designation and the status. So this is something similar for a marine protected area. And also MCI has really furthered the work in terms of just the mapping of it. You know, it's kind of a reference where people go to find out what is the status of these different MPAs globally. And so I have had, you know, kind of a limited ability to see personally blue parks and blue sparks. I've had obviously the Inhambane Bay, but there's one in Brazil that I'm familiar with. And I can say firsthand the difference in terms of the quantity of the biodiversity and the size of the fish that you see. It's just incredible. But with that designation, it comes also some responsibility in terms of monitoring. And that is one of the challenges that is probably not going to go away anytime soon, is this pressure for illegal fishing that needs to be managed. And it's difficult to do, right? A lot of these places are far away and it takes resources to do that. So I would say that that's one of the things we need to focus on moving forward. And I would encourage anybody listening to this to support MCI in different ways that you can. It doesn't have to be a large amount, you know, whether it's $10, $50, $100, you know, whatever matches your budget. and we have funds. We have this Blue Park Fund right now, but you can help direct that to a specific area if you so choose. So every dollar helps.
Thanks, Yonel. Okay, so we have one question that kind of came in about the flexibility of these networks with regard to adaptive management and climate change and monitoring. And anybody, either of you want to try your hand at that question? I know this is a very complicated topic to understand. How do we actually even deal with climate change? But the adaptive management might be a little bit more. Have you seen any examples, Clément? I think one of the places you've been is actually expanding their area because of some concerns about this.
Are we talking about Cerber-Banyuls reserve?
Yeah,
or...
right. Well, Cerber-Banyuls, but also I guess in the Philippines, they're also kind of revisiting the network a little bit and trying to expand. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is I haven't directly seen that link to climate change and everything, but yeah, I've seen like the network evolving, like, and like, for example, in Cerber-Banyuls, it's like, okay, the effectiveness of the very first area designation made them wanted to double the surface and to go and look for another area next to it to include in the reserve. So that was quite inspiring to see. Because, you know, when you see the results of the first one, then you decide to extend. But that's not the question here. To be honest, I haven't seen yet something really adaptive. But from what I understand, the discussion I have with the product we've seen on the ground there and everything, they are starting to implement that in the different document for the MPAs and stuff. Because obviously, this is something that's needed, you know, like, because like we are seeing right now things changing very, very fast, and yeah, you cannot, and that's actually a key of failure for protection for a space or everything. If you have you know, this kind of wall between a local population and the area, and there is, yeah, we need to have an interdependence between the, I mean, there is an interdependence between the area and the population there. So we need to have adaptive process and measures.
Yeah.
I can maybe add a little bit of color to
Please.
that, Lance. So the Blue Park in Brazil that I was referring to is called Alcatrazes. It's an archipelago of about 13 islands, which happens to be the largest congregation of frigate birds in the southern hemisphere. But there's a lot of life under the water. And one of the unfortunate developments that has to do with adaptive methodology is, unfortunately, there's been some petroleum tankers that came not too far, and there is a very invasive species of coral called sun coral, which is taken over. And what they have done is a proactive campaign where every time they go out, they have teams of 3 to 8 divers. They go in and they use a hammer and collect this coral, and they try to thin it out as best they can. And so I don't think they're ever going to get rid of it 100%, but they're keeping the population down and manageable so that the other local species can thrive.
Yeah, yeah. No, thanks for that. I think the adaptive management piece, and certainly here in California, with our heat waves and urchin outbreaks, there's a lot of management of the urchins now as an expansive invasive species. But I think also there's some pressure from the scientists going back to the state saying, hey, you know what? It has been 15, 20 years. We didn't envision climate change the way it's playing out, and we need to actually augment some of the placements of the MPAs in the network. And so hopefully that'll be the next phase. So thanks for the question. It's quite complicated, as you heard, lots of different aspects of what's needed. So we are going to go ahead and wrap up. I would like to say once again, we are looking forward to the 2026 Blue Park Awards next week on the 16th. So it's a well-kept surprise. So please tune in or get back in touch with us or visit our website. You'll see the winners at that point. Sarah and I will be there to present the recipients with their awards and in Mombasa next week. So anyway, thank you all for being here very much. Thank you very much, Clément and Yonel, for being part of this again. It's been fun to have this short time together. And for everyone else, please stay engaged. We'd love to hear from everyone about your thoughts or ideas. And if you know of some other great places in the ocean you want to tell us about, we would love to hear about them as well. So thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.